I'm Lou Goldstein, and welcome to another edition of Focus On. Tonight, my guest is Nicholas Finnemore, who is the author with his brother of Two Jersey Brothers, and we'll be talking to Nick about his book and about his life experiences in a little bit. But first, I want to welcome Nick to the show. So, Nick, thank you very much for dropping in on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Well, it's good seeing you. And so everybody knows a little bit about Nick. Let me give you a little bit about his background. Nick is a retired AT&T Regional Vice President with a 35-year career in engineering, computer systems, sales, and human resources. Upon his retirement, AT&T contracted with him for another 12 years with Christine Todd Whitman and three other New Jersey governors to assist in improving state operations. Two Jersey Brothers, which is Nick's memoir with his brother Bob, described many life-changing events and influences from his childhood in Haledon, New Jersey, experiences which gave rise to a number of challenging hobbies. He became a pilot and partner in a Piper Arrow airplane, a performing pianist, a sailboat enthusiast on Cape Cod waters, and a licensed ham radio operator. Nick and his wife of 58 years, Marie, live in Annandale, New Jersey. They have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. A lot of grandchildren there, Nick.
Yeah, great.
And I have 6 too, so we're right there with each other.
I got four in Massachusetts and 2 in New Jersey.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you see the ones in New Jersey a little bit more often then, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we do summer in Cape Cod, and we see the other 4 then.
That's great. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about the book, Two Jersey Brothers. So what motivated you to write the book, and why did you and your brother decide that this is a good thing to do?
Well, we had really 2 great impetus, and that you talk about this all the time. Gee,
Right.
We should write a book about our background and ancestry, and the motivation was really to do it for the grandkids. I've got 6, he has 2, and we said we want to get this down. But I had influences with a fellow named James O'Kane. He's a professor emeritus from Drew University. He had written 5 books on social justice, and he wrote a book on his boyhood in Brooklyn. And we're friends. We go to breakfast many times, and I would tell him some stories about my boy. He said, Nick, you have to write it down. You got to write a book. Okay, so that was one. The other one was my brother's daughter, Deanne Finnemore Jones, had heard these stories. She said, we have to capture this. So she and her husband recorded us, both video and audio, one day. It was only an hour. They asked a lot of questions. We responded. And then they took that recording and made it a document, a Word document. And that kind of went. But I got to tell you, that started with probably 10, 15 pages. It wasn't much. We said, what are we going to do from here? So anyway, that's kind of what launched it. And then my brother and I got into going back and forth for a year and a half with stories.
So it took you almost 2 years to write the entire book?
Yes.
Did you get any help in writing it?
Well, where we got help was kind of at the end when we had written it all down. We said, let's get an editor, and somebody can help us publish it. So we went to an organization called Cape House Publications, Lorraine Ash and Bill Ash. Now, what Lorraine did is she calls it heavy lifting. She charted everything, and she didn't change our writing much. She made some things more concise. However, she positioned everything. You need this here, and it was great. That really helped us, and that took a number of weeks, maybe a month. Then she turned it over to her husband, Bill, and he helped us publish it. Now, the question was, who do you go with? Who do you publish with? And he recommended Kindle Direct Publishing. And I got to tell you, we were amazed. When we got the PDF, the Word document, he put it up on Kindle Direct Publishing, and within 2 or 3 days, it was up for sale. It was amazing, in a paperback and as well ebook. So that was a great assist for us.
That's great. That's great. Now, when your brother and you sat down to write the book, did your memories coincide, or did you have different memories of how things actually happened?
I think we had different memories, and we had to reconcile sometimes. And and also he would bring up things that I didn't recall, and then all of a sudden he jogged my memory, and vice versa. Say, hey, do you remember this? Do you remember? Oh yeah, yeah. And so it was a great exchange. We would do it either email or telephone or what have you, and it was a real back and forth for a long time.
Well, it sounds like you had a good experience working together with your brother.
Oh, it was great. We're only 18 months apart. We kind of took different paths. He was the athlete in the family, and I took more of a science approach. But we're very close, and it was really a lot of fun writing this.
So, as Bob and yourself wrote the book, what objectives did you hope to achieve in publishing the book?
Well, we wanted our grandchildren to understand the times we went through as boys, in that it was post-World War II, and things were very different, as you can imagine. I'll tell you one story, just to make the point, is where we grew up, we were across from an elementary school which had a very big field in the back of it. Well, we would go out at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever, say on a weekend, and we would play all day, stickball, wall ball, marbles, you name it, okay? No supervision, we were on our own. And then at about 5 o'clock, we would hear this loud whistle because our house was close enough to the field. They had a very loud whistle, and we go scurrying, running home, okay, for dinner. But we were out all day, and very different than what you find today. And we wanted our grandchildren to understand those things.
Yeah, it was a different time. Usually you got up and you left at 9 o'clock, and just so long as you came home by 6 for dinner, you were okay. Usually nobody even asked you what you did all day,
Exactly. It was great. And of course, we formed a lot of values, and as we interacted with our friends, our boyfriends, playing stickball, you learn that one comes to mind is you used to choose sides. So to play it, stickball is like baseball. And it was a time when they're choosing, and it came down to me, he said, he stinks. Yeah, I don't want him on my team. Well, what do you do about that? Do you quit? I worked my tail off for weeks to get better, so they wouldn't tell me I stunk at baseball anyway. So those are the things that occur.
That's fun. So I know you have a lot of different stories and a lot of different memories, and each chapter is probably devoted to different topics. Can you talk a little bit about some of the major chapters and the topics and what they do cover?
Okay. My favorite chapters were one where we kind of go through the stores in Halden. Our mother used to take it's a mile square town. We could walk any place. And of course, as we're walking along, she would meet people. And then we would tug at her, said, Mom, let's go, we wanted to get on. But the stores we ran into and we cover in the book is the barber shop, where we learned probably our first swear words. I don't know. There was a chicken place where we actually got live chickens, where my mother would choose, and then they'd cut the head off. And we go through a lot of those details. There was a dentist. There was a shoe parlor where they did shoe repairs while you wait. My father took me into a bar at that time. I was probably too young, but there was a player piano, and I tell a story about that and how it kind of influenced my life with piano. So that's one of the major chapters, going through all of these stores in Halden, which were very close proximity, and the experiences we had in doing that. The other big one was my father started a diner called Belmont Diner in Halden, because it's on Belmont Ave. It was in 1945. And we worked in that diner for like 10 years as short order cooks. We peeled potatoes. We did a lot of things, and we were kind of weaned on the grill. And what we describe in there were a number of characters and people who were town people who came into the diner and were just funny. And we tell a lot of those funny stories that we heard and how they influenced us along the way. It was a great experience. So those are kind of two of the chapters. Of course, we start out the book with our ancestry. And
Okay.
that was something we had to do a lot of research
A
on.
lot of research on your family history.
Yeah, and we did come up with a couple surprises. Would you mind if I just tell you a couple of
No,
those?
no, I mean, surprises are good. If they were good surprises.
What fascinated us is, and we spent a lot of time at the kitchen and the dining room tables with parents and grandparents. But for whatever reason, they didn't talk a lot about things in their past life. Well, one of the things we uncovered was my grandfather on my mother's side. Um, uh, his first wife, which was my mother's real mother, passed away in the 1918 Spanish flu.
Oh, wow.
And what we uncovered after the book was written, whatever, and we started getting calls from relatives, is my grandfather had a stepbrother.
Okay.
We never knew. And people told us where the cemetery plot was, and my brother and I took a trip there. And when we went in, what we uncovered is my mother's real mother passed away 1918, Spanish flu, and my grandfather's stepbrother passed 3 days later. So I have a feeling, and we don't know this, that the trauma of that, they didn't want to talk about it, you know what I'm saying? So he remarried, by the way, and had 2 children with the second wife. So we knew that, but the point is, we didn't know that the stepbrother thing.
Now, where'd your family come from?
Well, on my father's side, it's from Fain, Italy, which is on the Adriatic side of Italy. And then my mother's family comes from Caserta, which is on the Mediterranean. Now, so let me just cover, one other surprise, which is from the Fain side. And that is, my father used to go to a festival every year, and we would go, and we've continued to go. In fact, there's another one here in June. And the festival, we did not realize, was a celebration from a sighting of the Virgin Mary back in the year 1000 AD by a deaf and dumb child. And the town chose not to publicize it. They didn't want to be inundated with a lot of visitors. But that was a surprise. And in the book, we described that whole event and what occurred.
Well, it sounds fabulous. And so how far does it go, all the way to the present day of the book? I mean, you talk about your ancestry. Do you take it through your whole life as far as things that you did during the course of your life?
Yeah, we covered both sides of the family. The other thing I would tell you, again, this occurred after the book, as we were in touch with relatives and everything. We found somebody did a family tree on my mother's side back to 1729. So we've got 5 or 6 generations now we know of that. But yeah, so it was from our birth, my birth 1339 up to 1953 we covered.
Now, when your family came over from Italy, did they settle in Helden? Or did they settle someplace else and eventually, move to Helden? Or how did
Well,
these people come
on
from?
my mother's side, they settled in Halden, which was just outside Patterson. Now, never told us exactly why, but let me tell you what the research brought out. In Caserta, Italy, there is a silk city, okay, which was developed under King Ferdinand. And so my grandfather on my mother's side became a silk weaver. Well, where's a natural place if you're going to migrate to the United States, but the silk city of the United States, which is Patterson. So we know how he got there. Now, my father, they went to Philadelphia first, but they also worked in the silk mills. So they moved from Philadelphia to Patterson, Halden also. And, you know, Haledon was set up where they had trolley cars. So it was easy to take the trolley car down to Patterson where the silk mills were.
Right.
There
And
was
then
200 of them.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in the heyday when they were really turning it out. Yeah.
Now, there's one other thing that we highlight in the book, and that is there's a museum in Haledon called the Botto House, and that celebrates the 1913 silk strike, where silk workers, and there were 200 factories in Patterson, went on strike because they wanted to go have them operate from like 2 weaves to 4 weaves. There was child labor, and the hours were very long. So they struck. And what happened was in Patterson, I'm telling a lot of it's in the book, they weren't allowed to assemble. But the mayor of Haledon allowed them. So they went up to Haledon and they had this big field. We have a photo of 25,000 people in near this Botto House where they let them assemble. And they struck for like six months. So that was interesting.
So I'm sure now this book was published back in last September of 2020, you know, right at the height
Yes.
of the pandemic, you know, height of COVID. And I was wondering, have you had family members who read the book or others who've read the book? And what has been their reaction from other readers as well?
Well, the general reaction is, boy, you brought back a lot of great mentors, especially, you know, people in our age group, but that's the big one. But as I say, as we started to interact, we had family members we hadn't seen in 40, 50 years. And they started to get in touch with us. They added stories. They told us more about the background. I tell you, the post book has been fascinating. Just lots of things came out, and it's been very rewarding in that regard. The other thing is we really haven't done a lot of publicizing of the book, but it's been a lot of word of mouth, and we're up to about 340 books that have been sold. We were shocked. We don't know how that happened. We don't know who's buying the books, but we did give out. But I need to say this though. We bought 130 books, which we signed and gave out to family and friends.
Oh, that's nice.
So this is over and above that.
That's nice. That's nice. Can you buy it on Amazon, or if somebody wanted to buy your book, Two Jersey Brothers, where would they go to buy it?
Yeah, Amazon.com, www.amazon.com, put in Two Jersey Brothers, and then it's stories from our Haledon boyhood. And it's selling for $12.95. But you can get the ebook, I think, for $9.10, something like that.
Okay. I see you have some statues there to your right. There's a statue. I'm not sure exactly what it is. You're right.
Oh, it's a pilot looking up at the sky, you know, with that famous poem. So, and in the background here,
it's like Babe Ruth in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, you recognize it right now. So without getting into, I'm giving away the book, but without getting into a lot of details, we had a lot of encounters with sports figures through our life. And one of them, my brother got a signed baseball from Joe DiMaggio. And I won't get into the detail of the story, but it was based on the fact sportsmanship in Little League. The Babe Ruth story is he came in 1946. There was a large field. There is still a large field in Haledon, New Jersey, called the Rose Street Field. And they were dedicating it in 1946. Now, he was retired. And I think he was probably starting with some cancer. But I was like 7 years old, went to the field.
Right.
And I don't know if I should reveal this, but I observed, well, he told a story about how he was raised and how he was influenced by a brother, Matthias, at a private school where he grew up. But he also was on the pitcher's mound. And I'll just tell you this, he threw 2 baseballs. He was a left-handed pitcher with his left hand, one hand, to 2 different batteries for strikes.
Really?
Never saw that again. But anyway, the details are in the book. but that was fascinating. So that's I got his autograph at that time, and that's in that setup there.
That's great. That's great. Now I know that you said that you're talking about your new hobbies, piloting and sailboats. Can you tell us how you got interested in that? And are you still flying? You still flying solo? Or?
No, I gave up flying. I was partners in a plane, and he passed away, and I shortly sold the plane after that. And so I've been out of it for quite a while. Of course, age gets to you. You got to be a little nervous.
Still young, still young.
Yeah.
You're doing the sailboating, right? You're still doing sailboating.
Yes, we do that. My son, I had a sailboat for 16 years on Cape Cod. My son bought one, and therefore I was able to sell mine. But recently he got into power up, so we're into stink potters, instead of sailboating. But Cape Cod is a great place to sail. And the right way I got into that was AT&T, who I worked for, as you mentioned all that time, moved me to Massachusetts for a 2-year assignment, and which turned out to be 13 years. So my children kind of got raised there. 2 of them stayed, and we kind of got into Cape Cod in a big way.
That's great. That's great. And how'd you decide on playing the piano?
Well, piano was an influence by my uncle. Now, again, on my mother's side, Alfonso, he had a son who played accordion, and he was a professional accordion player and kind of my idol, and so at 7-year-old, I started taking accordion lessons in a couple of studios in Patterson, and went from there. And I kept that. In fact, we started a couple bands, which I talk about. In elementary school, we played at PAL functions and a group named the Sharps. And then that turned into the Chessmen, and we played in high school. And I played up till about 25 when I had 3 children, and I was playing on weekends. And I said, no, I can't do this, being out to 3 o'clock in the morning. And I kind of gave that out. But I did come back recently, and for 8 years, I was with an outfit called the Jersey Dreamers, who do senior functions at places like the Brownstone in Patterson. And that was a lot of fun. It goes from like 11 o'clock in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. And we played for dancing as well as entertainment.
Great. That's great. So is that the book there that you have next to you, Nick?
Yeah, it is.
You just hold it up so everybody can see what it looks like. There you go. 2 Jersey brothers, Nick and Bob Finnemore. So basically, you heard what Nick had to say. Go get the book. You get it on Amazon, and you'll enjoy it because it's a great read about growing up in Jersey and all about the history of Nick and Bob, and all the experiences that they had, and how the world has changed, over the last couple decades. And it'd be a wonderful read, and I urge everybody who's watching to go out and get it for your summer read on the beach or just at home. You'll enjoy it. You'll say, you know what, this is great. This is a great book. One last question before we go, Nick. I always ask all my guests about who was a role model, who was a big influence in your life. And I was wondering if you could share with us someone who was a role model or role models in your life and who made a big influence in your life.
Well, I did mention one, and that is my uncle Al, who, of course, with music, and of course my parents, role models. My father, and this is what comes out of the book too. We wanted. There's a lot of dedication, hard work, discipline that we were taught, and our values and morals were formed around as I said, kitchen and dining room tables, not with social media. Right. And so it was great influence, and that drove our lives and allowed us to become, what we are today.
Well, thank you so much, Nick Finnemore. Thanks for joining us today. I know you're a busy guy with many different things to do, but everybody, please go out. 2 Jersey Brothers. You want to read it? Amazon.com. It's your summer reading. It's your homework. I'll be asking questions at the end of the summer to see if you read it. So, but Nick, thank you so much for coming on. Give my best to your wife, Marie, and your kids and your grandkids. And I hope you have a wonderful summer. And I'll be looking for the sequel. and hopefully there'll be a sequel coming out. To the book.
I'm not sure my wife will allow that. We talked about it. She doesn't. I spent a lot of time on this anyway. Hey, Lou, I really appreciate it. Went very quickly, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on, Nick. And thanks everybody for watching. I'm Lou Goldstein for Focus On. Until next week, stay healthy, stay active, stay focused, and we'll see you next week on another edition of Focus On. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Every day, every day.